Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. Monthly Report. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana show. And here we have a show that's going to share so much information. Today we have a very important guest with us on the show, and that's Miss Rhonda Chapman. How are you today, Miss Chapman?
Fabulous.
Well, Miss Chapman has so much information to share, and I guess it's going to be a very fun and lively show today. So I would say stay tuned and enjoy the show. First, we want to talk about our Newsline. The National Federation of the Blind Newsline has a service for you. Individuals that can no longer read print, we have the answer through the National Federation of the Blind Newsline service. It is a free service. Individuals can read over 460 newspapers, national newspapers, local newspapers. You can read and personally enjoy reading my Indianapolis Star every morning. Individuals love reading Wall Street journals, the Associated Presses around the country. It also has over 15 international newspaper and publications. If you want to read Germany, China, Jerusalem, there's a plethora of them out there. We also have breaking news with the ABC, BBC, CNN, Fox News, Huffington Post, and others within the breaking news segment of our publications. Individuals can now, just by using their landline phone or their smartphones or even the digital talking player that's provided through the Talking Book and Braille Library services from the Library of Congress for free. You can utilize that as well as your computer and other devices that we have where you can just, right there at your fingertips, read free publications 24 hours a day, instantaneously, 7 days a week. Florence, you can share a little bit about the magazines.
Yes, sir, I certainly can. I first like to talk about Guidepost Magazine, which is one of my favorites. There's also Ebony Magazine and Glamour, GQ Magazine. There's ESPN, Sports Illustrated. There's also WebMD, Diabetic. So there is a magazine for everyone. And I can go on and on.
Yeah, that Stone Soup magazine is a brand new magazine for youth around the world. And individuals up to the age of 13 can write into the Stone Soup publishers and possibly have their story published, which is a great magazine to read for youth. Let's see, there's also, did you mention the AARP?
There's also AARP, and you mentioned the children's magazine, Stone Soup, for children that are writers. There's also Poison Writers magazine also, for people who like to write, and I'm one of those people. And a person can also write their poetry or writings and send them in to Poison Writers as well.
And I also like the fact that we have the Stars and Stripes for military, and that's a very popular publication as well. Those that like to go and shop, like these two women here do, you can also go up to your Target and Walmart circulars. There's also job listings on there. That's a very intricate service where individuals can seek out jobs anywhere around the country. And so it's a great service. So we're going to take a short pause, and we'll be right back with our guest, Miss Rhonda Chapman. You are going to enjoy this show. So see you soon.
With my failing eyesight, I'm not able to read regular newspapers, and I'm not able to keep up with obituaries.
I've been a homemaker all of my life, but since my vision has failed,
I wish I could read my favorite magazine.
Have you heard of the NFB Newsline?
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. And we have our guest here, Miss Rhonda Chapman. And Rhonda, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to let the viewing audience know that we all up here are blind, and what we want to do is emphasize NFB Newsline, the services that it provides, as well as what's out in the community, what's happening in the community, as well as the realities of our guests. So, Ms. Chapman, welcome back to the show.
Yes.
Now, Rhonda, you haven't always been blind, right?
No. Nope.
Okay, and I imagine as a youthful person with sight, you never thought about blindness much like I did.
Oh, well, no. Blindness wasn't a part of my vocabulary at all. That was something that, when it did cross my mind, I figured it happened to those way later in life. You know, it was just a part of growing old. So at 37, going blind was not in my agenda plan.
So did you know of any blind individuals? Did you interact with any blind individuals prior to losing your sight?
No, there was one older gentleman, like I said, a senior citizen that was attending my mother's church, and I remember he was blind, but no, I didn't really think about blindness at all. You know, of course, everybody knew Stevie Wonder was blind, and he was awesome, but no, blindness did not cross Rhonda's world.
Well, you know, and I find that to be very intriguing because, as you mentioned, seniors being blind, but, you know, there's a lot of youth that are congenitally blind that I never even thought of. You know, what about you, Florence? You ever meet anybody blind prior to losing sight?
Well, actually, I knew people that were blind. In my family, our eye condition is pretty dominant, so I was familiar with people that were coping with blindness.
And what condition is that?
I recognize pigmentosa.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, for the most part, when I do ask people that same question, I get the same answer. You know, we never have met a person truly or had a conversation. And that kind of leads into a lot of the misperception of the condition, you know, and what people are capable of.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
So, you know, when you started losing your sight, what age were you?
Well, I didn't actually start losing my sight. I lost my
So you
sight.
just-
See, there's a difference.
Yeah.
I went from sighted to totally blind in 10 days. There wasn't that gradual perception, you know. And it is something that I will never forget as long as I live, because it was around Mother's Day week, going into Mother's Day week of 2001. And it was building up to be the best Mother's Day that I ever had. I mean, we were having this fabulous fashion show at church, and, you know, me and my mom went out and we bought new outfits, and, you know, we were going to be in the parade, and, you know, that weekend, that Saturday prior, I actually got to meet and see my favorite artist in the world at the time, Thomas Kincaid. He was in town. You know, I took the whole family. We went out to the airport, and that's when I started to realize something was extremely off with my vision. That Thursday, backing up to the Thursday before Mother's Day, we were at the practice, and anything chest down, I noticed I wasn't really seeing. And so I'm bumping into little kids, I'm not seeing the cursor on my keyboard at work, people are walking up to the desk, and if my head is looking down, I didn't notice them. And later I found out it was because the first thing that went was my peripheral vision. So, you know, anything that you would catch in the corner of your eye, my corner of my eye wasn't catching anything. And then we went to see Thomas Kincaid, and he did extra highlights on the painting that we had bought, which was very significant to us because we would go to the gallery downtown at Circle Center Mall, and my husband and I, and we would sit for hours just looking at the paintings. Now, we were there looking because we couldn't afford one at the time, but finally the day came and we were able to actually purchase one. And so he's in town at the airport, it's a big thing, you know, and he did added highlights to the painting, and he signed it again on the back in chalk, in charcoal. And, you know, I was over the moon. I was on top of the world. And I'm there and I'm looking at the other paintings in the hall and everything, and I am ticked off. The lighting was bad. I couldn't see them that good. I'm grumbling and complaining. Well, now I know it wasn't that the lighting was bad, it was me. I was losing my sight and didn't realize it. And then Monday, I go to work and I go to merge on to 465, and I'm almost sideswiped by a big truck. I didn't see it. I get to work. I'm checking in my patients. I work for a large cardiology group here in town, and people are coming in to have their blood work done. And, you know, one of my favorite patients come in and he says, "Are you not gonna speak to me?" I never saw him because the peripheral was gone and it was closing in, right? And I left there that day and I had my best friend drive me to the eye doctor because when I attempted to do it myself, I almost hit someone in the garage. And so I knew, you know, something's wrong. And so she gets me to the eye doctor that had just examined my eyes 3 months prior and gave me a year's worth of contacts for nearsightedness. And the doctor looks at my paperwork and my chart and he says, "Well, you see this dark area here?" And I'm like, "Yes." He says, "You have no sight there." And I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? You know, I'm married, I have 2 children, Jonathan and Julian, they were 10 and 12 at the time. What am I going to do? It was inconceivable that this could be happening to me. I mean, I was living my American dream.
Wow. So living your American dream, and then this occurs. We're going to take a short pause, and we'll be right back with more of this dream that she was living and the reality of her new life. So stay tuned.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline, experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana with our guest, Ms. Rhonda Chapman. And Rhonda, you were talking about your journey.
Yes.
Your journey with blindness. And it sounds like it was a short journey.
Very short, very short.
Your short journey to blindness. Yeah, because you continue that journey now.
It really was.
So you were at the ophthalmologist or eye doctor, and so what occurred?
Well, he points out the results of that test where they blow the air in your eye. I'm not sure what they call that anymore, but the picture of that showed a dark ring around my eye. And he informed me that where it's dark, vision was gone. And so that began the whirlwind of, the ophthalmologist sending me to the optometrist, the optometrist sending me to the ophthalmologist, to this specialist, to that specialist. And at the end of it, we went from day 1. At day 10, I wake up and I'm in Methodist Hospital, and the neuro-ophthalmologist is there. The neurologist is there. And they take the bandages off. They have implanted a shunt in the back of my head to control the fluid. Because what happened is I have a condition called pseudotumor seborrhei. Now, they described it to me as fake tumor of the brain. So the fluid pressure built up, and it beat my optic nerves like a wave hitting a seashore, and it killed the optic nerve. And then once your optic nerves are gone, once they're dead, all the parts are there, but there's no power to the headlights. So lights are out. There's no magical surgery, there's no magical pill, there's nothing they can do. So that's the condition I have. So I have a permanent shunt in the back of my head which pumps the fluid out and directs it to my stomach, and it's constantly working, and we get that checked every year. But in the midst of that 10-day from when they tell me this circle is, there's no sight, you're already blind there, till they tell me, I wake up, they take the blinders off, and the neurologist says, ask me the question, can you see? And I said, no, I can't see. And he said, well, you'll never see. Now, when someone tells you you'll never, that's like the nail in the coffin. I'm like, oh no. That, it was unacceptable. I have 2 children, I'm married, we just built a new home, I am on the corporate ladder climbing up, I have a career, unacceptable. I mean, I'm active in the church, this can't be happening to me. Well, it rains on the just as well as the unjust. And things in life happens. But over the years, this was back in 2001. Okay, now we're at 2018. And I see things so differently. I have grown and expanded so enormously, so expansionally, that I am totally more in love with life now than I've ever been in my life. Because if it wasn't for the blindness, I wouldn't know you two now. It was our shared blindness that brought our orbits together. It was because of I lost my sight, you lost your sight. At one point or another, all of us ended up in the National Federation of the Blind, and that's how we met. If it wasn't for the blindness, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have the job that I have now. I wouldn't have the outreach. I wouldn't have the platform. It's for such a time as this that I have come into being, and I am in love with life, let me tell you.
Now tell me, during off air, we were talking about, your marriage, and you mentioned your marriage and your children. Now, how did that impact your immediate family there?
Oh, well, my husband went into shutdown because I organized everything in the home. I kept the calendars. I made sure everybody got from point A to point B. You know how that goes. Well, now he has to pick out his own clothes. He has to haul the kids. He has to do all the shopping. He had to do everything for a while before I could find my way back into the situation and start handling some things again. It was rough. My oldest son, Jonathan, he was 12. He was going from the 5th grade into 6th grade, middle school, and he became a mini-me. Everything I did, he wanted to do. When I was sent to Bosma Rehabilitation Center for training, I learned Braille, Jonathan learned Braille. If I walked around our property, he walked with me. If I went to the mailbox, he's watching. I mean, he was my constant shadow. Now, to look at me, if you just glance across the room and look at me, you don't see anything wrong with me because my eyes appear normal. They're not white. I'm not staring at the ceiling. I'm not doing, anything strange that for some reason people think blind people do. And I'm sure there probably are some out there that do it, but that's not me. So my youngest son is in total denial. And he said to me one day, we're sitting at the table and we're eating, and he just blurted out, "What is it? You just woke up one morning and decided you don't want to go to work anymore?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" I was in total shock. He says, "We don't go to the mall. You don't take us to great times. You say you don't have any money. You don't go to work. You say you can't see. You're looking right at me. What do you mean you can't see?" I mean, this 10-year-old kid was ticked. You hear me? He did not get it. And unfortunately, poor Julia didn't get it for quite a while. But he did come around. He did come around. He's now 26. Of course, he's come around, or I probably would have killed him by now, talking to me like that. But it was an adjustment. It was. It was a shock. His whole life had been turned upside down. I mean, I can't imagine, and I still to this day can't get him to sit down and just tell me, "What are you feeling? How did you see it?" But it was a change for everybody. It really was.
Well, I'll tell you what, they say a change is going to come. And we're going to take a pause, and we'll be back to conclude this segment. And we'll want you to join us again next week to learn more about this whirlwind of change that has come into Miss Chapman and her family's life. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline. We want you to join us next week as we continue our conversation with Ms. Rhonda Chapman. I had the privilege of asking a question to Ms. Stephanie Mills at the Indiana Black Expo, and a question regarding disabilities. The question asked to Ms. Stephanie Mills surrounded diversity and inclusion for young Black males facing disabilities in our society.
You asked the perfect person, because I have a son that has disability. I have a son that has Down syndrome. And when I was 3 months pregnant, they asked if I wanted to abort him. And I was like, no, I don't care if he has one eye. I'm going to rock this world with my son, and we're going to do it. And he's an A student. I homeschool him. He functions at a very, very high level. So I think disability and people, they don't think that people that are blind can do whatever. They can do whatever they're taught to do. I mean, when you think of Stevie Wonder and you think of Ray Charles, you know, everybody, I think, and I don't treat my son different. I don't treat him, I treat him just like another. He's 17 now, and he bucks up at me, and I'm like, I'll kill you and make another one look just like you. so you know, he doesn't think he's different. He doesn't act different. I don't allow people to treat him different. So and that's one of my voices that I want to bring home, because he belongs to the Miracle League back in Charlotte, North Carolina, and plays baseball. And he wants to go to A&T. At 15, he said, Mom, I want to go to A&T and play the trumpet in the band, and that's what he's going to do. So I'm a strong advocate of disabilities and challenges that we have, and especially for, I can go on and on about our youth. I'm passionate about that. But I am an advocate for that, absolutely. And I think that disability is just, to me, special needs mean you need extra love. Special love and patience. That's what disability and special needs means to me.
National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.